Welcome to episode 174 of the Confidence Through Health podcast, where I interview Toni Jessop of Rawlicious You. She is changing the way that so many people view their health, so many people view food and nutrition, and she is doing it both for your health and also for the animals. And we talk about how impactful it can be to have a raw vegan lifestyle, how impactful it can be for both your health and also for the animals that you're protecting. And she's very passionate about specifically dog rescues. We talk about that as a person who has adopted a dog from the Humane Society before. Dogs, I love dogs, and it's a passion of mine as well. And so to mix the health side of things that all of you that have listened before know that I'm super passionate about, and as a raw vegan myself, to understand more about how it works, how it operates, what your body needs, how your body can live in that environment when you're feeding yourself that, versus what society and the media and the way things traditionally food have been set up I say traditionally in the last 100 years or so, when we've gone away from being mostly a society that has gardens in the backyard and in farming and agriculture, and more towards the processed foods and more leaning towards a heavy animal protein diet. So great conversation. She's super passionate. You'll see that come through whether you listen to it or you watch the video on YouTube. Either way, you will see her passion come through. And I hope you really enjoy this and connect with her and connect with my other episodes as well, as you start to see and hear from all of these great people that I get to interview. So thank you, Toni, for being a guest on the Confidence Through Health podcast.
Yay. Thank you for having me. I'm really excited.
Yeah,
Thanks,
I am
Jerry.
super excited because I think that what you do is, one, it's inspired me, as I was telling you before, but two, it's like, I think it's so important for people to hear the success stories of how you can change your life through your nutrition. And I think people are scared, for one, but two is that they don't know where to go and where to look for. And you've created that community. And so before we get too much into that, just tell us a little bit about how you got on your journey and what you're doing.
Yeah, I've been in and out of diets all my life, pretty much, stemming from I've been in the fitness industry working as a personal trainer, working in the classes from a very young age. I actually joined the Royal Air Force when I was 16. So that's how I got into fitness, because I needed to get fit to join the force. Sure. I did 2 years, loved the whole fitness, loved it all. And I was always told, you need your animal protein, and especially then going into, I was doing a bit of fitness modeling when I was 18, for a few years. And I was always encouraged, every meal, 6-7 meals a day, have your protein, animal protein. Yep. I used to have like egg and apple often. I'm like, oh my goodness, I look back now, crazy. But I believed in the system, and that's what I just did what I was told. And I had a lot of personal trainers working with me at the time and in competitions and helping me, guide me. And then I just started to get into that cycle of restriction because of being in as a model and then working in the gyms. I got into a not a very healthy lifestyle of restriction, binge eating. And I had quite an imbalanced, I would say, family dynamics. So there was a lot of, I look back now, the traumas, and I used food to comfort. And because I was lacking in nutrition, there was two things going on that I look back now. I was lacking nutrition because I was restricting, and then I was just eating very poorly, especially when I'd have my binges. So it was just such a vicious cycle. And then I realized, and then because of the restriction, I'm addicted to the foods. And it was just constantly on my mind because I want fuel in my body, fuel in my mind. And then I started to get a lot of insecurities, when I was putting on weight, and everything just becomes so detailed, calorie counting. Right. And it just got an obsession, an unhealthy obsession. And it went on for years. I remember reading magazines in my car after I'd done a big 3-hour session, then go to the supermarket, buy loads of fitness magazines, all the models. Sure. And then because I was so hungry, I would just sit in my car and eat like about £100, sometimes £50, hundreds of pounds worth of chocolate,
Oh my
sweets, because I was restricting calories. I was restricting calories. I was restricting sugar from natural sugar. I wasn't eating any fruit. It was, I look back now and I wonder why I've got like all these like issues. I was like starving, but then I wasn't fueling my body with the right nutrients. And then I was over exercising. I was teaching 3 classes a day. So I was constant, and I looked great, I can't deny I looked great, but at the cost of the binge eating and my health. So luckily I didn't get anything severe. You could argue potentially from IBS and irritable bowel, the irritable bowel syndrome. I was having lots of gut issues, which makes sense.
Of course,
And I was anemic as well. So I was eating animals and I was anemic. Go figure. I was like, right, okay, so I started to just get a little bit more conscious. I was always conscious of what I was eating. Again, I was obsessive.
Sure.
But never fed the right nutrition through others. It was always part of the system. And then 13 years ago, I came to Thailand for the second time. And I went and volunteered at a dog rescue. It was one of my big passions. Every time I travel, I love to go and volunteer my time. I've always got a huge love for animals. And I met a fruitarian at the time, 13 years ago, fruitarian. I mean, from what I was eating then, I was eating, I was on this restriction. Standard, totally. Everybody else who met him at this dog rescue was like acting like he was saying he was strange. And I was fascinated. I'm really open-minded. I think through travel, being in the forces, and I've always been back and forth traveling. I love to explore. I'm open-minded. So that served me. Yeah. I was interested. I was like, can you live off it? He was eating these 10 bananas. So it was all sat down having some food. At lunchtime, I was eating my rice and my chicken and some vegetables. And he was just eating 10 bananas. And we were all talking about the dog meat trade. Not as much now in Thailand, but they was doing a lot of the border runs or sending dogs over to Vietnam and Cambodia. And I was traumatized. I couldn't believe it. It was the first time I've been exposed to the dog meat trade. Never knew that even existed as a thing. Right. And he sat there in front of everybody and just said, well, there's no difference. They're eating dogs. You're eating chicken. You're eating cows. I was like, yeah. What is the difference? And he started to go on. And something just shifted in me. I was like, wow, I get goosebumps now because that was the moment that changed everything for me. Right. And I just become obsessed with him instead. Like I was learning. He's one of my best friends now. So he lives in Phuket, Thailand. So and he's still fruitarian. It goes off a little bit and then comes back to fruitarian, but fruitarian over 13 years now. And and he said there's no difference, and that we really want to be looking at what we're consuming and putting into our vessel, because he's an athlete as well. He played a lot of tennis, and I thought, wow, you look good, you're looking well. But it was so far stretched from my way of thinking, that fruitarian. But I like the idea of, okay, more fruits. At the time, I wasn't eating much fruits. I'd have it as a snack, like an apple and an orange. Fruits are boring in the UK. That's what I thought. I was like, who wants to eat just apples and oranges all the time?
And you're in Thailand, and there's such a wide variety there compared to most places in the world.
Well, that's what it exposed me to. I was like, okay, I like this. And then that's when I was consuming more raw foodists, and I liked the term raw until 4 freely. So I really started to watch a lot of hair videos, and I was inspired because I liked the lifestyle. I liked how she looked, and she was saying there's no binge eating anymore, because she suffered very similar to what I was going through, restriction, binge eating, being in the fitness industry. I was like, okay, there's something here. So that's where I just started, definitely went vegan. I was like, I can't justify, I'm contradicting myself totally. I'm trying to help these dogs, rescue these dogs, fight and speak up for them. I hate injustice. Why am I eating? So it was just pretty much overnight, with a few here and there months after then, but overnight, pretty much. I used to remember, like, my ex used to say, I'd bring home these croquettes, and he said, "There's milk in there." And I thought, I'd read one packet and it said there was no milk in.
Right.
So I thought all of them had no milk in. And then it was him that said, "No, there's milk in those croquettes." Okay. So that I just had a few little, just educating myself, and then really started to become a voice for the animals, and started to speak at events and universities. And I was speaking really passionately. And probably at times some people may have thought that was quite aggressive, but I was so passionate. And I loved Gary Yavosky. As soon as I watched his, do you know Gary Yavosky? Yeah. He's controversial, and he's not everybody can resonate with him, but I loved his. I've got quite a masculine energy, and I'm a bit like, it served me, especially in the forces and the personal training. I'm like, you just get it done, and you just tell it how it is. We don't need to sugarcoat it.
Yep.
So I loved his method, and so I followed a lot of his work and was speaking on the truth and what really was going on. So, and then on and off, eating well. I'd worked a lot on I was huge in personal development, because I always thought there was something wrong with me, and especially because I was suffering with low self-esteem. Right. Didn't think I was worthy. I'd come from a family, bless the souls, they don't know any better. There was even my mother was even like a little concerned that I was better in myself. Like, I was traveling, I was going to I went to university, and they felt I was judging them. Like, they felt like I was better than them, and I wasn't. I knew there was something more that I couldn't articulate. So I always felt suppressed if I'd speak up or things I was doing. So I would always go back in my box. And there is even that I'm working through still. I always think, who am I? Who do I think I am? But I've been working through that and working on, and that's why I love your channel about the confidence through health, because through eating this way, I've really stepped up in my confidence in how I feel, because I'm not restricting. I'm fueling my body with the great food, and I'm seeing results. So through with family dynamics, I had to get out of that environment. I felt very trapped where I was. I was trying to, there was a guy called Chris Dinsmore. He's passed away, sadly. He died through climbing Kilimanjaro. He set up a brand called Live Your Legend, and it's about getting out of where you are and vibrating higher. And I loved it. And I was like, wow, I knew I was destined for more, but my environment where I was just keeping me in my box. I felt very suffocated. And that when I'd go traveling, I'd come back with all this fire and passion, and then I'd go back in my box. So back and forth for many years. It's not until I left that, and now I know how environment is so key for our success, especially in the first stages when you're learning about a healthy way of being. Yep. So the more I spent with James, when I'd come to Thailand, felt this new energy and new lease on life. I felt great. And then I'd go back in my box, because my family my friends would be like, calm yourself, Toni, you're getting a bit too big for your shoes there, calm down. And it was all oh, I look back now, wow, no wonder why I had no confidence. And and so then I was using food again to know myself, and because I just didn't feel good enough, and I was stuck. I felt in that too, just trying to break free, trying to shine my light, but then getting held back. So I just worked on my confidence, getting into the gym, working out, which was more in alignment for my health rather than how I looked. And it was a different energy. So just through trial and error. And then 8 years ago, that's when I really embodied the raw until dinner 8 years ago. So a good 5 years after going vegan, of all it's never linear, is it? It's up and down. In and out of raw. I'd come to Thailand, eat an abundance of fruits, spend time with James, then I'd go back, and then I'd eat crap, and it was yo-yoing, but it really stabilized 8 years ago when I moved out to Thailand. I'm not saying this is what everyone has to do, but I knew I had to be in the tropics. I needed to be in the tropics, away from my circle of influence, and start a new life. To some, it's quite dramatic, but I had to do that. I had to get out. Before coming to Thailand, the raw until dinner, I was that's where I was. But there were times I wasn't eating that great, but it was 70 at the time. As soon as I came here, so yes, 6 years ago is when I really, so it was 8, fully embodied it. And then 3 years ago when I went through a breakup, because I was in and out of fully raw, I was having a lot of raw days and felt amazing. And then I went through the breakup and I decided to do a juice cleanse. I knew I had still waste in me that was blocking, clogging me.
Sure.
And I wasn't utilizing. I knew the raw foods could do so much more if I had a cleaner digestive system. And I just knew, I felt called to do a cleanse. And I've been doing a couple here and there, but could never quite stick with it. So I did a 40-day juice cleanse. That opened up. I would say that was my awakening on the raw path of fully cemented. This is what I need to do, and this is where I'm going. I'd broken up from the ex, which was he was vegan. Now he's not eating. He's not vegan anymore. Totally different people now. It's interesting. He's gone totally the opposite, and I've gone full on conscious. And my connection just to my spiritual practice, my meditative practice has heightened. And that's really all in a nutshell. Obviously, it's much more chaotic. And it was up and down. But I would say that cleanse changed the trajectory. You know, there was the going vegan, raw until 4. And then, so it doesn't have to be overnight. You know, some people look at me now. I mean, I've just completed a 54 fruit only challenge.
Right.
And pretty much easy, like it's the way of life, like high fruit. I've been high fruit for such a long time now. I'm so embodied in it.
Right.
People look at me and go, oh, I can't do that. And I was there. I was looking at James 13 years ago. Well, I liked the concept. It made sense, but I couldn't quite, not only could I physically do it, I just couldn't compute it. Like how, and they had a lot of, questions, and how can you really thrive on fruit? And where do you get your protein? All those common questions. And now it's just like, I just simplify it. I like simplicity. Life can be complicated or simple. Let's make life simple. So for me, I've experienced a lot of stress through overcomplicating, too controlling, to trying to find, very sad, because I studied animal science. I thought I was going to be a vet, and I just knew intuitively there's more to just, because science even then is it's so manipulated, and look at all the studies and start to realize there's an agenda behind all even my university experience. I realized a lot of the studies were all manipulated and tweaked and changed to who was funding it. So that's actually university when I started to really open up to there's a lot of BS in the world, and I rebelled against it. So through actually my way of eating, it's a form of rebellion of like, you ain't blowing my energy. I see the truth. I can see through the veil. So I've got a strong personality. Like I said, I don't like injustice. And when I find out what they're doing to our food, what they're doing to our, the programming in the systems and the TV, and who's controlling the TVs, the media. So I was just like, okay, I need to take control here. And that was empowering, reinforced this path. So when you start to see through the truths, I think things get easier. Initially, it's you've got a lot of these beliefs and programs that are so outdated. And when you start to see the truth, it lifts. There's a lot of shifts that happen. And a lot of that came through when I was at university, seeing the papers, and then the juice cleanse 3 years ago, when I really started to just get these downloads from myself, not from anyone else. It was from my own intuition, realizing I don't even need to eat that food. It's not food. It's synthetic garbage. It's not designed for us. It's not. Get back to simplicity. Get back to nature. Stop even uncomplicating that. Where are you getting your protein from? What? So everything just started to break down all the way. I had a big identity shift. I would say the biggest one I've had was in the process of the juice cleanse. And it really cemented to bring things back to simplicity. If we have a lot more stimulus in our foods and in our life, stress, stress coming from all these varieties of food, too many options.
Right.
We get lost. We get lost in it. And if we bring it back down to simplicity, I always say variety, and it comes down just to your plate, what you're eating, and it overlaps into all areas of your life. Yeah. We don't need to start complicating it and say the more stimulus you have on your plate, the more you go into I'd realize I'm going into these frenzies of food and addictions.
Right.
But if we break it down to the structured fruits and vegetables, what our bodies need, you don't go into those frenzies. I don't get these angry spats. I have no like frustrations. That like I feel much more balanced. It's a much more calmer way of living. I'm in tune. It's like I don't do much yoga, but I could compare it to a yogi. Like I'd have a meditation practice, and that's much more easier to do because I'm a much more balanced state rather than this chaotic, reactive. Because that's how I would when there was an uncomfortable emotion. If there was a feeling that come up, I would react and eat because I just didn't want to feel it. I didn't want to suppress. So it's what I help others with to overcome the binge eating. And this is where the overweight, we're not healthy. We've got a lot of sickness through the overeating and not being present with what we're eating.
Right.
So, I'm passionate about it. And it's coming through a lot more now because I'm speaking up more
It's
about
awesome. No, it's awesome. And it's funny because I was like, I got a question about that and then you'd answer it. So it's good. But a couple things I wanted, like the juice cleanse specifically, like to get into that, but also like now that because I'm obviously you've researched more into it, right? Like you did it yourself, but now since you're helping other people, you're digging into it more and don't you know, like now you can point back to, okay, well, I was giving myself the nutrients that my brain needed to be able to open up, right? Like to be able to be able to create the neurotransmitters that I needed to be able to see the other side, that when you're coating yourself with the high sugar and the high processed oils and the high processed foods, that like you can't get to that level of insight, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so it was the juice cleanse, yes, but it was also like that it wasn't just the juice by itself. Like it was that created the environment inside of you to then be able to go, oh, okay. And for some people that might take a short amount of time, and some others it might take 40 days or longer, just based on what you've been eating and how like clogged up your systems are, right?
Yeah.
So you've got to get that stuff out.
If you clear the pathway, you get so much more than it's so much more than the food. Right. It's about elimination, and this is what detoxification is about. It's eliminating, letting the
digestion
rest so that it can start to filter, clean the system.
Right. And that's like, I love that you said rest, because that's a big piece of it, right? Is like in one of the things that I don't know why I didn't know this before, but it recently was something that I came across, and it was like, and it totally makes sense when I look at it and go like, okay, I've been raw vegan for a while now, and it totally makes sense. And especially I noticed it when I first went, even though I was vegan before, like first going raw vegan, it was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to the bathroom more. I'm having more frequent bowel movements because of what I'm putting in, because your body digests it so much faster.
Yeah.
Then like animal products can take 18 hours or 24 hours to get through your system. And so
even longer, 10 years they tested when the people did the colonics.
Yeah.
Just had a lady at this life course center near me. 10 years, still this fecal
That's
matter
crazy.
in his colon.
That's
10
crazy.
years ago. Rotting.
Yeah, well, exactly. That's what it's doing, right? It's rotting. It's just, and that's creating a horrible environment in your body. And it's something that your digestive system and your immune system has to be on constant guard against until that's out of your system, right? And so it's like, whether it's a juice cleanse or just adding a lot, going vegan, adding a lot more vegetables, a lot more fruits to your diet, like, yeah, you're going to see bathroom changes because your body's saying thank you, right? like in getting rid of that stuff is it's really it's the first key piece I think that you have to have before you can even think about being healthy.
I know. Yeah.
I
And
mean,
it's not always about what you obviously putting in. Fruits digest fast,
sure.
and that's why it's a lighter detox. But the juicing, if you really want a most effective and a clean out in a shorter period of time, you've got to bypass the liver. So we've got to bypass the digestion. So we have to put in the juice. I mean, you can do it through fruits only because they're fast, especially the juicy fruits. That's why I did a 54-day fruit. And then you can still have, daily activities. You can still do things. I was still going to the gym.
Right.
I'm still training. So, and the juice cleanse, I wouldn't necessarily train. Some people disagree. I would give that body the rest and not overdo it. But, you can still be participating in life, and you don't have to go as extreme as the water fast. Now, a water fast does have its place, but really detoxification and removing the waste, the mucoid plaque out and the biofilms is really detoxification, elimination. So the less you're putting in, the better. Is in the lighter foods. That's where you're really going to clean it out, and then you're gonna anything you absorb, it's gonna be much more efficient. It's gonna, if axis has gone right up, you're gonna absorb the nutrients rather than all being blocked through this, not just stagnant energy, but all the blockages we have through eating this mucus, inflamed foods.
Right. And so for those people out there that are going, okay, well, what about sugar? Right? Fruit juices have sugar, right? So what about sugar? Like how do we worry about, or should we be concerned about that if we were to do a juice fast?
Not all. It's interesting. This has been thrown out there, all this propaganda. It's interesting. And you see through the studies, again, everything's just filtered through. I've seen thousands and hundreds of my clients go on juice cleanses and fruit only. I mean, look at Orville. So I look at those who look amazing, that are doing so well. Orville Douglas, you've got Eli Mart. I've had quite a few, and Ann Osborne, fruitarians, long-term fruitarians as well. And my very close friend, James, no insulin issues. In fact, I did, when I was on the starch solution for a little while, when I was doing the raw until dinner, Neil Bernard showing that sugar's not the issue. It's the fat. When you've got the fat, which blocks the receptors in your cells, but what's happening, these fats are blocking, and then you've got the fruit that's coming through, which are super fast at digesting. Right. And that's what our cells, the cells want the sugar, but what happens is you blocked it with the fat, and then this is where that starts to ferment and start to cause issues in the body, and this is where you start to see insulin rise, and why you get pre and diabetes. Right. Pre-diabetes and diabetes. So when you take that out of your system, there's no fat. Your cells are gonna absorb all the nutrients. And I've seen so many heal, like bedridden. Sky Conway, who I interviewed not long ago, she was bedridden. She was so sick. Yeah. And after a few days, she was able to get out of bed and walk. I see even James, my friend, he notices just the aches and pains because he's now in his late 50s. He's not got any aches and pains. As soon as he starts to introduce cooked foods, aches and pains come back. He's not as his best. And I'm seeing it time and time, and I feel the same. Yeah. So that's when there's something here. This is why experiment, explore. And I know people they've got that fear. It's just fear mongering. Get the fat out. Get on these cleanses and see a huge improvement. It might take some time to adjust and transition. That's why I wouldn't go all in initially, depending on what diet you're currently on. I wouldn't say to someone who's eating standard diet and go straight to sugar, because it's going to take some time for that to come out of the body. Yeah. And that's where you can cause a few problems. But if you do it diligently, you can start taking away, start eliminating, and then bring in the juices and the fruits. And and Eli's shown, and they're all showing, Gillian Berry, they're all showing the tests, or their insulin glucose levels stable. Even Eli, after even a meal, naturally our insulin
Yeah.
And it should come back down to balance.
Right.
Always does. When every time he's eating fruit, it only
Right.
spikes slightly, it comes back down. So the myth on that, again, it's a unraveling another BS and seeing the truth through it. It's just a fear, just because they don't want you to eat. They want you to eat all this processed, all their supplements.
Right.
Back to basics, back to some fruit. Fruit's so easy on the digestion. It's just fast.
Well, that too. Yeah. It's fast. It's easy. It's a great source of fuel.
Yeah.
And if you eat a wide variety of fruit, you're getting just so much nutrition, right? That it's like because that's another thing I tell people is like don't just go, okay, well, I'll eat more fruits. I'll just eat this and this and this and that's it. But then continue to eat the other processed foods. I'm like, you're okay. You're a little bit better, but like let's have that be step one, and then just keep going, not just stop there, right?
Yeah. You see more of it. I mean, I love seeing others that are proving, like Orville Douglas eats one meal a day, Eli Martin pretty much one meal a day, and simple. Like Orville did 70 odd days on just grapes.
Yeah.
And he's still training in the gym. I'm fascinated by these people. I'm like, okay, they're proving the BS in the world. Oh, you're going to lack this and lack that. No, what we do lack, what we lack is simplicity. We're just bombarding our system with these heavy burden, toxic foods that are blocking. Yeah. Get rid of it. Focus on elimination. Yeah. So I'm right into the detoxification and seeing how. I mean, I focus more on the weight loss with others, but the health benefits that people are experiencing, like the clear eyes. There's our group's growing so fast now. I think we've got over 50,000 members in my Raw Living group. Yeah, and the results speak for themselves. So many on a juice fast, fruit cleanses, eyesights are improving, digestion's much flowing easy, the more bowel movement, hair. Everything's eczema's going, psoriasis. Yeah. And I'm like, this is incredible. And they're all just back to basics, back to simple foods, fruits and vegetables. Yeah.
Well, and it's one of the things that because one of the arguments that when I tell people something similar to that, I like, just get back to what we, our true ancestors back in the day did. And a lot of people, especially in Texas where I'm at, because it's so heavy on cattle and meat and is like, but we're hunter gatherers. I'm like, no, flip those words around. Like, we were gatherers who hunted occasionally, like, because most of the time those people weren't killing animals because they couldn't get them or what, they weren't around or whatever. They were gathering roots, they were gathering berries, they were gathering fruits. Like, the majority of their diet was vegetables and fruits and plants, and like, go back to that versus what the standard diet is, in getting away from. I know people that they won't eat anything unless it's cooked, and I'm just like, what you're doing to that food, manipulating it, is detrimental to your body in most cases.
Yeah, you're restructuring the whole. It's taking the life force energy out of that food. Right. What if we want to feel good and feel? We're always talking about the high vibration, law of attraction, law of vibration. But if you're putting dead foods in your system, how are you going to feel? It makes sense. I'm going to feel dead, and I feel it now. Do you know? Only yesterday, was it yesterday? Day before, after 54 days of fruit only, I actually had pad thai and naan bread. I don't learn the lessons sometimes. I'm still learning. I felt so sick. I was in bed. I had to go to sleep. Yeah. I felt depressed because I was agitated because I couldn't do anything, but it lowered my frequency. I didn't really want to do, I couldn't do anything. I felt bloated, dehydrated. I couldn't stop drinking. The water wasn't sufficient. So people are then trapped in these cooked foods that are dehydrating. No wonder why they're drinking all the fizzy pop. Luckily, I've never really been into fizzy drinks. I've always had, I like my water and my lemon water. I feel for what we're consuming in the world. We're so far from. I see some friends back. I went and visited some of my friends back in England a few years back. I couldn't believe how far away I am from their eating. They're having these bottles of Coke
Yep.
and takeaways was big in my family.
Yeah.
People look at me to where I was. We had takeaways all the time. Friday
Right.
night fish and chips.
Yep.
All these heavy foods.
Yeah.
And I was definitely going on the path of. I'm surprised from all these binge episodes that I was having, from the sugar and the fats together.
Mm-hmm.
Again, they break differently in the body, and what happens is
Right.
our white blood cells then start to fire and starts to create, like you're sick. So they want to take away from they want to digest it, so they're going to take away from anything that you need to heal.
Right.
And I've never been, touch wood, I've been sick for such a long time, but yesterday it reinforced that I can't eat those foods. I mean, this was even a nasty Thai place where I used to love all these Thai little street stalls.
Sure.
And it was just full of sugar, full of fat. Those combined together. I'm much more energized, focused when we are at mono meals for me. Very simple. Variety over time, not in a meal. This is my new way of being now. I've noticed a big shift in what I'm eating in each meal. Mm-hmm. And I don't need to eat large amounts. Like this freedom I have with the food now is so incredible. It's liberating. I don't have to binge. Like it took over my life.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned like the small, like one of the things that I think a lot of people get, like when they see what I eat or they tell them what I eat. And I recently spoke at university here to a bunch of students who are they were in a class to become, whether it was a dentist or a physical therapist or whatever, in the health field, right? So their goal is to go on to get another degree and be somebody who's helping people with their health. And the professor asked me to come in and talk about what I do and how I work with people. And most of the people were like, okay, whatever. We're going to fall asleep in class because we're college students. And it was a 9:00 class, and it's like, until I started telling them like, okay, well, but here's what I do. I'm an athlete and I eat raw. And they were like, wait, what?
Wow.
They were like, what? And I'm like, and they're like, okay, what? They, of course, other than where do you get your protein? But then, the other question was like, well, how much do you eat? And I was like, far less than 2,000 calories. Like, and they were like, okay. And I was like, and I run on average, about 40 miles a week. Like, so I'm hoofing it, and that's just, that doesn't count the other stuff I do as an active person, right? Like, that's just the athlete part. And they're like, oh my, and I'm like, yeah, sometimes I'll just, I'll have a banana in the morning and that's it. And 2:00 comes around. I'm like, oh, okay, I need something else. And they're like, are you nuts? I'm like, no, it's if you feed your body what it needs when it needs it, your body doesn't need a whole lot.
Yeah.
And that's
it's huge. It's huge because people because they'll look at me now because I've gone through the binging, restricting. They're like, oh, this is another eating disorder, Toni. I'm like, but I'm strong. The difference is how I feel. But nobody will. I mean, I don't often get it now because I'm so embodied in this lifestyle, and they see how it's helping others. I'm like, an eating disorder is eating anything without caring about the consequences. Yeah. For me, it's got to be a win-win for everybody. That's my foundation. It's ethical. It's got to be a win for the animals. Right. And back to about this unnecessary eating of. I'll come back to that, but. Not eating the animals, the environment, the less impact I have, the better for me and for others. Everyone's benefiting from me. I'm much happier, more balanced. Yep. Everyone gains from that. Oh, yeah. So if that's my baseline. So if that's a way I'm going to live, I'm like, I don't have an eating disorder anymore. I used to. I had a distorted way of eating. Yeah. I eat what I want within, you have to have, like, initially you feel like it's a restriction because you're cutting out all that crap. Yeah. But I feel like when you open your mind to, you can eat an abundance of fresh, and I'm very blessed. I live in Thailand. There's a lot of great fruits. Right. That's why I'm up here, Yeah. But I'm seeing others make this work, so it depends Depends on where you are. You can seek out others that are in the lifestyle that are making it work.
Mm-hmm.
I was in England, and even I was having a lot of raw days. You could start with the high raw, but when you realize you don't need to eat these animals for survival, that will change everything. Like, you don't need these to survive.
Right.
We can thrive on the most simple, like I always say, simple diet.
Yeah.
We don't need to consume animals. For me, I won't want to take on their energy, their death, their adrenaline that's been what they've been through. I've been and worked at an high animal welfare farm. I was going to become a livestock inspector. I was considering being a vet, but I wanted to speak up more for the animals. I wanted to be more of legislation. So I was looking into an animal health inspector or RSPCA inspector back in the UK.
Yeah.
And I was shocked to see, because I witnessed and I did a lot of apprentice work with these farms, and my university was on the farm. It was Bishop Burton in Hull, in Beverley. And I couldn't believe, like, this was animal wealth, like a high animal welfare. What was going on there was not acceptable to me, and what these animals go through. So I saw firsthand, and it was traumatizing. So that's my foundation. But then I thought, well, now I can thrive as well, and actually, it's karma. It's good karma. I feel like, wow, I'm gonna now leave those alone, and I'm going to thrive and feel and look good. So it's just a win-win.
Oh, yeah. Well, and so you mentioned look good, which brought me back to, like, one of the things you said about weight loss because that is obviously it's a big piece of a lot of people's puzzle, whether they're getting it from watching, TV shows and they see that they need to be a certain size, or seeing it on magazines, or sometimes it's weight loss because their doctor said, okay, if you don't, the excess weight is going to cause these issues. We all know that. And so it's like, okay, well, whatever the reason is, but sometimes it's like we get lost in that weight loss is the number one goal. Whereas if we switch it to, okay, I need to get these nutrients in through this avenue, and then, like, if I do that, it's proven weight loss is going to happen. Is that more effective versus going, like, in, looking at the scale every day, every week, every whatever, if, like, I didn't, versus, like, okay, but I know what I did. I fed myself well, right? Like, that's more effective. Is that what you've seen?
Yeah, that was my focus as well. When I went on the path of the raw until dinner, I was having the huge banana smoothies. I was really, because I've come from binge, a lot of binging. So I really needed the calorie. And at first you do, because the fruits aren't as dense. So you will feel hunger. And then you start to understand later down the line, once you've changed the microbiome. So this is another reason why I should have expanded on, is you've got microbes that are craving these junk foods, these heavy foods. When you change the microbiome, all these microbes that are in your gut, you'll start to crave more of the healthy. It's a given. It's a byproduct of eating this way. So I knew in my heart, I was very scared that first year of going raw until dinner. I was having these 10 banana smoothies. I was packing them in. I felt that was necessary on my journey. So I've got a couple of clients that are working with me that feel constantly starving, and especially in this going high fruit or a lot more fruit in their diet, that they feel they're hungry. They're not as satisfied. So just in the transition, there's two things going on, the physiological and the psychological. We're working 90% on the mind. So we're working a lot on how we can nourish the soul rather than nourishing, so much the ego, the food, the attachment. So we work a lot on that. So it's really, when people come to me, they think they're coming for weight loss. They come for, it's much more than weight loss. They come for what they really need. Yeah. So when you have to go through that transition, like pack it, I'm like, packing the calories in, eat and eat and eat. And then we find ways, because they're like, oh, sometimes it's a little expensive depending on where they are. I'm like, okay, Whole Foods sailors. I've got literally every excuse I have an answer for, like, get to the wholesalers. I was best friends with the wholesaler back in England. I would get 100 bananas in a box. That's what you would normally get in a big box. I would get that for £5.
Oh, wow.
And I would go through 3-4 a week. Because I was buying all. He knew what I was going. Like I was saying, look, he knew my journey, and he felt, and he was doing me great because we'd become good friends. And I was teaching him, I was showing him, and he was having banana smoothies, and he was giving me all the leftover, like, you know, the things that the people didn't really want, or like even in the supermarkets, the leftover, like to the end of the day,
right?
The fruit that is perfect that they're saying is not quality is like it's even more quality. So I was masterful because I was on a budget. I had to be, because I was having to eat, you know, a lot more. I felt at the time, but once I'd worked through the trauma response and realizing I don't need food to nourish, and I was realizing that I was unhappy where I was. You know, there's a lot of deeper wounds and traumas that I was working through, and through that's where I started to realize I don't need as much, and I don't need to use food to comfort and help with the binging. But yeah, those initial stages, pack in the food. Right. So people who, like I say, I always, with James, when I saw him, there was 10 bananas. Wow, you're eating a lot there. Like now that to me, even I could still eat all that. I mean, when I want, I can. But I choose, it's a different energy frequency now. It's like, I finish eating when I'm more in tune with my body, but that takes time to build. We can't just, especially coming from those that are coming from a binge eating and restricting. These are who I work with the most because I've gone through it. I know that pain, and not everybody, like my ex didn't understand it, and because I'd go into these frenzies. He'd come home, he's like, "Where's all the food gone?" Like, I mean, everything. I was like, and it takes over your life, and it's such a sad place to be. And I'm so glad I'm free from that.
Right.
I can't remember what was the original question? I told you I go off on tangents.
No, I don't remember either. But it's, you know, one of the things you said about it, and it's funny because I go into the store usually like early in the morning, try to avoid everybody. I can get in and out really quickly. And I shop probably 2 to 3 days a week, because I'm buying the fresh you know, it's like I got to buy the fresh, and then we were out of it. And we're a family of 4, and like a lot of times I'll see there's bags of whether it's peaches or avocados or whatever that are, you know, in the 50% off because they're not quality anymore. And so, like there's cashiers that know me, right? Because I go to the same store, and so they know me, and I go in and they're like, "Oh, it's 50% off day," because it's like one bag after another. If it's an ice bag, I get every one of them. I'm like, nobody else is getting this, right? Like, because it's like it's too valuable, and it's also that once I think a lot of people go through this when they either it's, you know, the New Year's resolution or they had the doctor's visit, and it's like, okay, I've got to go more fruits and vegetables. And then a week later, they're like, well, I just threw them all away because I didn't know how to change what I'm preparing and what I'm doing. Right. Yeah. And so it's like, and then immediately instead of going, well, let me stop and figure out what I did wrong. It's like, well, I'm not going to do that again. I'm not going to buy all that stuff and just throw it away. Right. Yeah. Where it's like, they need to flip that. And so like, what's something that is it just go online and find somebody to help them? Or is it like, what can be that, like, okay, well, if you're at that stage where you want to start, here's the easiest way to make that like happen. Is there an easy way?
Totally. Mentorship community fast tracks everyone's success. The knowledge is out there. There's so much info. Actually, a lot of it's censored. You know, look at detoxification and regeneration. It's not really that easy to find. And then it's, you know, they turn it around and saying, oh, but not, you know, it's interesting when you start to dig deep and you think, so, but the knowledge is there.
Yeah.
We can have all this knowledge, but really it's about accountability. You need an action plan, and you do need the support. You need somebody. I've always had mentors. That's the difference I've invested in myself so much, because we don't always see our blind spots, and we don't always have the tools that are going to help us. You got to have a big toolbox. And I look at people where I want to be, whoever I want their life, their body, what they're doing.
Yeah.
As long as it's in alignment with my values,
sure,
then I'm going to take their advice, and I get invested thousands on courses, mentorship, masterminds.
Yeah.
That's why I love doing it. And I offer coaching, group coaching, and various forms of support and community. Community is huge. I used to be a lone wolf. I had this, you go through a phase, not everybody, but I do feel when you go vegan and you see all the atrocities in the world, there's a lot of pain there. Even for me now, there's a lot. That's what motivates me. I'm pained by it, and the lies we've been fed. I'm angry, but I channel it now in a much more positive way. Yeah. And with that, I didn't know what to do with it. So I'd be angry at everyone. And if they didn't see it, like when you first go vegan and you're like, why are you not vegan? Like, why are you seeing this? And I've shown exactly something that I've seen, and they just don't care. That's the worst of me, when they just don't care. But half the time, most do, most care. I know people have just disconnected from the heart. So for me, I'm just now, as long as we can be showing the lifestyle, being positive, supporting one another, and understanding where they are, because I wasn't always vegan. I wasn't always raw, and I didn't set on the path to be fully raw. Right. I really thought it was even long term. Now I'm like, never say never to anything, because people ask me now, what about fruitarian? And I'm like, before I'll be like, no way. And even at moments I'm like, no way. But who knows? Who knows? It's 80% fruit now. So I'm just like, when you've got the support and community around you, you don't feel so alone and as like aggressive. Like you're much more compassionate. There's boundaries I set. I mean, there's certain things I won't tolerate. But a lot of it, I'm just like, if I have to keep repeating myself, which the protein myth, it's such a biggest lie, misconception that we've got. I don't get frustrated when people keep asking me. And I'm much more, like I say, you come from much more of a loving place now, and to go back to and if it wasn't the mentorship, I would have been this lone wolf figuring it out on my own, and feeling alone. Yeah, because it can be a lonely path. I forget I'm in my little bubble right now. It's not until I go and visit friends who aren't living this lifestyle, I'm like, oh yeah, like it's so different. It's so different to a lot of people. And I forget that. I live it every day. And my partner's vegan as well. So it's so easy. And I'm talking to people, clients every single day. And I forget like where they are when they're struggling, if they're socializing. I'm like, because I'm so embodied in it now. I'm like, when I organize events and group gatherings or meeting friends, we go to the raw vegan places, or they come to my house, or do potlucks, and it's all raw. But they're open because I have quite a passionate energy, so I don't think people want to like. I now, do you know, before that was one of my insecurities. I was a bit too much for some people. Like masculine energy. I used to be very insecure about it. I used to like say dim my light. Yeah. Now I'm like, wow, I love as long as it's coming from love and it's a place that is from the heart, then I'm going to be this. So my friends I know they even know it. When you take charge, people need that. People need leadership. I need leadership. Even at my level, I know there's so much more that I can offer, and I want to be better. So I invest in those that are even higher in the they're not any better, but they just see through the blind spots that we have. And we all have them. We still have limiting beliefs. Oh yeah, it's forever.
That's one of the things that I tell people is like, is that even the top most successful people in the world that you look up to, and you might say like, oh my gosh, they wake up and they have self-doubt, right? Like the top celebrities, the top whatever it is, like they all have self-doubt, and and especially athletes. And it's just they learn how to control it and go like, and as a track athlete, one of the kids I was coaching actually this morning, I reminded him, because he's got a big race this weekend. And I said, remember, when you step on the track, everything else is gone. Right. Yeah. You're your athlete. You are meant to run this race. You're meant to run it this way. Like, you don't need to worry about what mom says or what even I said, 4 days ago, like, you step here and that's who you are. And I think when we get to the point and how we eat, I think plays a major role in, can we get to the point where we can tunnel vision ourselves in that way? Because if we don't eat right, you can't get there, because your body, even though you just ate a meal, it has no nutrition in it, and it not even just no nutrition, but your body is struggling to deal with what you just ate. While in turn it's saying, but I still want this other stuff over here that I need. And so that's why you eat something and you're like, I'm still hungry. That should have sufficed. That 1,500 calorie fast food meal should have fed you for the whole day. Yeah. But 30 minutes later, you're like, I'm starving.
Yeah.
And you just didn't get the right stuff.
It is. It's not nourishing, not just the body, but the soul, where we feel dissatisfied. And you'll constantly be on that cycle of dissatisfaction. Nothing's ever good enough. Look at those that are on drugs. This food's drug. They're never satisfied. They're always looking for the next fix. It keeps you trapped. It keeps you stuck. Yep. And it will never end until you get out of it. You've got to push through it by having a coach that'll push you, because we're lazy creatures. We want to keep going back to the familiar. We're all naturally, we are, but we want to keep in our little bubbles. But we have to just step outside of it, and through coaching, that's what helps. But the food is the foundation. We are what we eat. What you put into your vessel, treat it like a temple. If you're treating it like a garbage can, that's what's going to ooze out. That's where the hatred and anger, we're energetic beings. If we continue to feed our cells with this junk, then this is what's going to project out of us. So if we want, for me, I always looked within. That was one thing I'm so proud of myself. And I look back, I'm like, I never thought, sometimes I blame others, definitely victim mode at times. But I was like, what's in me that needs changing? Where do why am I getting upset with someone? Why am I reacting? Why am I eating? What's going on here? Where's the unmet need? Where's that true nourishment of love and kindness that I need to feed myself? Right. So through the foods, I'm choosing love and kindness, because I'm not eating a dead animal that's suffered, that's only been bred into existence to feed us, which is unnecessary. I'm more in alignment in my goals, and it just fuels all parts of your life. You feel deeper nourishment than just this vessel. Yeah. It's a spiritual. That's why I struggle to understand those that are on. I've got quite a few good friends who are amazing spiritual coaches, and they're still consuming dead food. And I'm like, I think they're switching on how energetically, like, these dead foods they're holding us back, like we were talking about earlier. So it oozes out into so much more of our lives than we realize. So who are we? What do we eat on a regular basis? Are you choosing love, or are you choosing self? Because for me, it was self-harm. It was for me to suppress. It was because I hated myself. I had so low self-worth. So the two go hand in hand: self-development, working on the mindset, and eating well. When you've got that, you are just going to explode, and it's going to be. It's a great path to be on. It's not easy, because a lot of you can't use food anymore I'm not using food to suppress, and it's not easy. It's difficult at times. I've got to face all those fears, those traumas that I didn't want to see, or didn't sometimes know there was there, and they come up. So if you want to heal super fast, get on the fruit, get on the raw foods, get on a juice cleanse, and I tell you, you'll see all your blind spots come face to face.
Oh yeah.
very quickly.
Oh yeah.
And where your
Yeah.
anger, where your deep-seated anger comes from. I was an angry person. I had a lot of anger. And that definitely what I've seen in such a much happier place. I was resentment. I was angry at I've gone from being angry at the world to now, okay, the power's within me.
Right.
I can be the light, and that as a collect will just ooze out. We're like still with magnetic beings. We're just, when I know I'm taking care of me, everyone benefits. The dogs benefit. So talk about the dogs. Another period, what reinforced it for me. So I went heavy into dog rescue. I was always volunteering. I was always doing something, and like my vegan activist work. But what made me come to Thailand the most, it wasn't just about the tropical fruits, but it was the dogs. And I'll explain the reason why I'm bringing this up now. It'll make sense. But the dogs, I couldn't believe 13 years ago when I saw, or longer than that, because when I first came out here, I was so traumatized by the amount of sick and abandoned dogs on every street corner. Never experienced it before. And I was in England, couldn't believe these dogs were on their own, didn't have an owner, walking around in the middle of the roads, getting ran over and skin issues. I was shocked. It really took a chunk out of my heart. So stories when I actually lost a dog in the so I went to a market and there was a dog that was so sick and skinny, no hair, and I didn't know what to do. I was feeding her and I was crying. She followed me back to the hotel a good kilometer away, and I didn't know what to do. So I had to go back and lose her. I had to lose this dog. That pain of losing her stuck with me, and what really encouraged me to move over here to do something bigger. So when you start to focus on yourself, you start to then have a bigger purpose, which really makes this path so much easier. When you've got a mission, rather than just yourself is so important. But when you've got a bigger drive, lots of our I call them the micro stresses, the traumas, you start put things in perspective. And that's what I'd say really healed a lot of my pain and trauma, is that I can do something. It's when we feel like we can't. So what we're suppressing. So what I was suppressing at the time, collectively, and probably didn't realize at the time, energetically, I felt helpless that I was witnessing these atrocities and not able to do something. And then when you see others do it, so I want to show people that we've adopted now over 600 dogs in 6 years.
Oh, wow.
Just little old me coming over to Thailand, volunteering, and then realized I need to take it up. But I got really sick at one point. I say sick, I was just more mentally exhausted, because what was happening, I was doing the raw until dinner, and then I was having some crappy food, some Thai foods, or I wasn't eating. So my journey did fall backwards, and there is this. I say it's never linear. It's all these lessons and reinforcements, and gifts that come in to put us on the more alignment, more heart-centered path. So I was full on for like 3 years of just intense helping with the dogs, and seeing a lot of cruelty. So it really took a toll on me mentally.
Right.
That was another reason I had to take my health, because what we do is what I see a lot of people, they give so much to others and not take care of themselves. We always have to. I use the analogy of the flight. When you're on a plane, if you're going to crash, we're always told get the oxygen mask on first before you help others. That sat with me. I was like, I'm trying to help all these animals. I'm crying all the time. I'm stressed. I'm angry at people. I'm not coming off as very nice. So there was a lot of conflicts where I was, and it wasn't helping the dogs. So that was frustrating. So I thought, okay, I need to start looking after myself. I need to really mentally, what am I eating? Why am I not nourishing my body with the right foods? And then through that, I've really started to manage. And that's why we've grown so much in the rescue. I keep it at a level now where, so I've got those two my passion projects. That's what I do every day now. I help clients feel their best, look their best, and then I help animals. It's a win-win. So my life is, I pinch myself sometimes because it took me a long time. Oh, it felt like a long time. Trust the process, trust what you're going through,
Right.
that it all comes when you're ready, and it's all coming.
Yeah.
It just feels like half the more I'm eating. That's just the first step. First step is the food. Once you nourish that body, imagine, because you've got more time on your hands, you're feeling great, you want to help everyone. It's a natural given. You know, instead of becoming insular, which I was at times, I was becoming so angry. I don't want to put myself out there and help anyone. I was struggling with that. But now, back to, I come through with so much love and understanding for others rather than reactive. I love how I respond. I'm not totally perfect, and I don't get triggered. I do get triggered, but it's way less and much more loving when somebody tells me something that what happened the other day was I was helping a dog on the street, really sick dog. Oh, you should give that money, what you feed to dogs, to the people, the community. And I'm like, but I do that as well. And I'm like,
right.
But I don't now doubt myself anymore. I've got back to the confidence. I'm much more embodied and confident in an alignment with my values. Yeah. So if we can work on that, it's magical.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. And one of the things that when it comes to like people and seeing you out, and because this is the biggest, other than protein, the other biggest question I get is, what do you eat when you go out? Right. And so we went on a vacation a couple weekends ago, and down to a beach that, a beach area that we like and we love. And so there's a couple of restaurants that we frequent as a family, and they're serving fried fish and fried foods and all the hamburgers and all this stuff. And it's always funny when our family of four and the waitress comes over, takes the orders. But then when the server comes with the food, right, different person. So they have no idea who ordered what. And they're like, this, okay, that person, this, that. Wait, this salad that has nothing on it, but just like some vegetables, that's really you? I'm like, yeah. That's me. Because my kids, I would say my kids are probably 90% vegan. We let them splurge here and there because I don't want to force it on them. I want them to find it themselves. Yeah. And my wife is vegetarian, and so it's like, she'll have cheese or something on something, and so it's like, but then you've got this salad with like just that's it. And they always look at it, and I can see the wheel spinning, right? And I'm just like, and I used to want to say something or want to like describe, or this is why I'm doing it. So I had to feel like I had to explain it. Yeah. And now it's like, no, I'll just, unless they ask, and then I'll politely respond with, okay, well, maybe you should consider doing something like this every now and then with your life, because I feel so much better. I look at me. I don't look 49, right? Like,
no.
I know, like, nobody gets that. And so it's like, that usually spins it from like, that I can see the wheel spinning of like all the stuff that they've heard. Where's he getting his protein? Why does he need meat? Why does he need to like, wait a minute, you only eat that and you're 49 and you look like, well, maybe I should do something different. Is what spins. And I think, like you said, is like when you get it yourself and you feel it yourself and you know it, and you know that you're doing the right thing and it starts to shine, then just letting it do it. Like sometimes we have to get out of the way, right? Because like you said, like you want to be in the way and you want to answer, you get triggered. And it's like sometimes you got to go, no, look, just let me be out of the way and just let it happen naturally. Yeah. Because they'll start asking questions and it'll go the right direction. And it's like, that's when you can make an impact and really inspire somebody to think about that change.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why that just motivated me just to put it out there. Even if one person just sees the message, it just has a ripple, a compound. It's a natural, if we understand the compound effect, something, this this method is by Darren. Let's first listen to Darren Hardy about the compound effect.
Yep.
Also, the other one, Slight Edge. Just just everything in your life, if you just keep the consistency. So it's not going to happen overnight. You're not going to be fully embodied, especially when you just learn about this lifestyle. You're going to have doubts.
Yeah.
People are going to infiltrate your mind, and you're going to be back and forth. But every day, just make one little step towards where you want to go. Watch the people, do the things, so that it naturally compounds. Because I'm a big reader, I love to read. I read every single day without fail. It's my non-negotiable. And 20 minutes of reading one book, so say one chapter, depending on the size of the book, that's one book a month. That's 12 books a year. Imagine your mind. If you're doing that every day, or if you're exercising. So I call it the power hour. I do this every morning without fail. If I've got more time, I'll do it more, but it's non-negotiable. 20 minutes of meditation, 20 minutes of reading, 20 minutes of movement. It really sets my day up for success. It really puts me back into my alignment. If I do it in the morning where I'm not being distracted, movement's usually a lot more, but if you get the body moving, and this, just doing that every day is what's brought me here. Do you know? And like say, people think you've just done this overnight. No, I put things into place, because by doing those 3 tools that I do, those rituals in the morning, I feel like I'm worthy. I'm worthy for the day. I'm worthy to go out in the world and show up as my best self. And it starts me off on, I call them get your bookends of the day, your morning, your evening rituals, super solid. The rest of the day just flows. Life changing. And then you want to feed your body. Everything overlaps, everything interlinks. I want to feed my body good stuff because I feel good. I've started my day off strong and good. My meal that I want to have, my first meal, will be whole foods. And that's where I give a lot of tools and tricks to the clients to make this transition much more fun, enjoyable, without feeling that you have to. Don't compare your chapter 1 to someone's chapter 20. You're comparing my chapter. Let's where you are now, let's take some steps. And that compound effect, subtle little things, will get you into where I love those little shifts, these little nuggets by reading every day and listening. And I've taken a lot of nuggets from myself. I'm like, and I like to apply them. I'm a person. Apply it, see if it works, tweak it, see if it works for me. And that's all I've been doing throughout my life, through those little steps. And with you being an athlete, you didn't, you're not to where you are now. There's periods of plateau and you have to tweak things, but it's the consistency. And that's what keys are to success. But when I eat out, I say I don't have the social aspect. Doesn't faze me at all. I don't drink alcohol. I go out. I only eat during the day as well. I don't eat in the evening and early morning. So when we eat, all my friends, it's so funny when I invite my friends over, when I go to eat, it's at like 3 o'clock. My last meal, 3 or 4 o'clock. I'm like, this is a weird time, Toni. I don't go on the snack. I'm so rebellious. I do love that about myself. It's like, I don't want to eat when they've told me to eat.
Right.
7, 8 a.m. breakfast, lunch and dinner.
Yeah.
Who feeds that? That's the system. I'll eat when I want to eat. And my body clock now, you can train it. And that's why we have been trained to eat those 3 meals, 7 meals a day. But I'm not hungry until after lunch. I'll have a few meals over the daytime. And if I don't. Sometimes it's mono meals, sometimes it's not. So I'm totally the opposite. Whereas I know people are coming into this lifestyle. Socializing is a big aspect of their life. But we can really change that around there's a lot of tips we can do. Is, let's say the psychological aspect is, instead of going out because we're going to eat, let's focus on the connections we're going to build the confidence. If you've got lost, because I was always at the buffet table when I used to go to social gatherings. I was so uncomfortable socializing. I was always about, how do I look? I'm like, what am I going to say? And how I didn't know what to say. I just put so much pressure on myself. So I'd just go and eat. I'd be the best. Every time, food, where's the food? Now it's like, let's go and learn about that person. Let's enjoy the company of the person. Let's see how we can connect at a deeper level. Like some people are just like, Toni, you talk about some deep stuff, but I want to know more. I want to know their soul. I want to know what makes them tick and drive. So I'm focused on that, and then I make sure I'm full before I go. You know, if someone's going out, be full. Call the restaurant in advance.
Yeah.
And then, you know, when you, like you say, when you're embodied in it, you don't even need to question it. Like when you go out, they're saying, "Is that what you're eating?" You know, like, well, yeah, you don't. You could lie. You could say, "Well, I eaten." Well, you might not have eaten before, but you could say, "I've eaten before," or "No, I'm here to. I want to be around you all. I'm not here." Or like I say, you could bring, like, I know fruit. Anne Osborne used to bring all these amazing dishes or fruits. Yeah. And that's what I do. I sometimes bring all these creative at times. Sometimes. Yep. Most of the time I don't do that because it takes time, and I like simplicity. And I'll create all these delicious dishes, and they love it. Yeah. So like I say, I have these potlucks. So be creative, or just step into your power and be like, I'm good. I'm here to embrace the connections, not the food. I don't need to eat.
Right. Well, it's funny because my wife had a Christmas party for work this past Christmas, and I think I mentioned I started going raw at the end of November and went through January, and then was like, okay, let me experiment again by adding some cooked food in and see how I feel and the difference. But so that, this Christmas party fell right in there, and I'm raw, and the people that were hosting, I was like, okay, well, let's just take stuff that I know I can eat, right? That I know I'll be fine with. I know I'll fill up on. That way, if it's a 3-4 hour party, whatever, I'm not stressed about all these people eating, or there's not any triggers of other people eating or any of that kind of stuff. And it's so funny because we put the stuff on there. It was a potluck, so everybody brought something, and it was the only fresh looking food, the only colorful food. And my wife and I were the only ones that ate it.
Oh wow! It's usually the opposite. They usually go for it, and you're like, "Get my food."
I know, but I was like, and the hostess came over. She was like, "Did you have some?" I tried to put out some, because she put out a salad, but she had salad dressing and cheese on it and all this stuff. And she was like, and I was like, "That's okay. You missed the boat a little bit, but I was like, no, we planned on it. Everything's fine, everything." And but everybody's like looking at my plate, going, okay. But and that's another big piece of it, is if it's a social gathering like that, it's like, don't be afraid to bring your own stuff and be prepared, and or do the other is, and I've done that plenty of times, is go and not have anything and just enjoy the company, and it gives you the opportunity to talk because you're not eating anything.
Yeah.
So.
And then sometimes you realize these gatherings, or certain individuals, or these type of events are not your vibe. Do you know? I used to always feel obligated to go to them, and I'm like, I now step in my power. This is where boundaries are. I'm like, I was eating because I didn't really enjoy the company, and you can start to realize that these aren't your people sometimes, or sometimes it's just not your environment. Yeah. I used to get a lot of anxiety when I'd go to the pub. Like, it was a common thing in England, especially when you was able to the first drink, you go to the pubs and the bars. And I didn't like it, but I felt that's what you do. Right. And it was not until I decided, no, I don't have to go to these. There's other. So I started to look at what else can I do instead. What do I really, really enjoy? Because then it takes away from the food. So instead of focus, because my life was always focused around in society, the way we connect is always through food, gatherings, celebrations. Yep. Is there anything else that we can, like with your events, your athletes? It's a healthy way you connect with those, you train with those. Yep. I go to the gym. I love that gym vibe. I love going in nature and hiking. Yep. Spending time with animals. Rather than being all around the food. So you're nourishing so many more parts of yourself where you don't feel called to hide that side of yourself.
Right. Very true. Well, I want to be very respectful of your time. We went a little bit overboard, but I greatly appreciate it. This is so much fun. How can people get in touch with you, follow you, like if they want to know more, whether it's about the health for themselves, or if they're like, okay, I need to know how to get more involved with the dogs,
Oh yeah,
and or
yeah,
like how can I bring that to my area type of situation. So how do they follow you, in
yeah.
touch with you?
rawliciousYou.com. Sorry, I
Okay,
think you broke up a little bit. I don't think you finished. I think you've broken up and then
that's okay.
I went in. Okay. So rawliciousYou.com. I'm
Okay,
on, I've got a Raw Living free group. All the information's on the website, but I do have a
okay,
YouTube channel all under Rawlicious You, and Instagram, and my Facebook, and the Facebook group is Raw Living. And I offer coaching and group coaching and challenges as well. And my ebook's coming out very soon. I'm revamping that. And we're
awesome.
offering retreats as well. So I'm
Oh,
really
cool.
excited. Yeah,
That's
I'm
awesome.
moving into, so this is what's happening right now. This weekend, I'm moving into a bigger property. I'm making it more intimate. We was going to go bigger, but we've got the main property and then two bungalows.
Oh,
It's a
nice.
gorgeous pool villa. So we've already got bookings, and the offering to basically fully immerse in this lifestyle. There's different packages. They can be day, 3 days, 7 days, even a month
Right.
and 40 days. I've got a client coming for 40 full
Oh,
days.
wow.
Yeah, I'm really
That's awesome.
excited. So they're going to immerse themselves in this whole lifestyle, and it's everything that I am. So I'm
Yeah.
living my whole life and helping others be like, because there's a difference when you come out. Like, so I was very blessed to have come to Thailand and met
Hmm.
James, who's a fruitarian.
Yeah.
That really changed the trajectory, through spending time with him every day at the rescue. So
Yeah.
they'll be coming, they can choose. They can pick and choose. They can go to the dog rescue if they wish. I don't physically have a dog rescue. We
Right.
do fosters. So I have rescue
Sure.
dogs at my home
Yep.
and within fosters, but we do all the rehabilitation, and they could be part of that as well, or go to we have a government dog pound, which is not
Hmm.
the nicest, but it's very, yeah, it's a rewarding experience.
Yeah.
And then they immerse themselves either in the fruit only juice or the raw vegan. My boyfriend's a raw vegan chef, so
Oh, cool.
he's gone from being a vegan in England and creating incredible dishes out of nothing. Like, it's
Yeah.
unbelievable what he can create. And now he's raw. It makes the transition so much easier, and he makes some
Oh, yeah.
amazing. Everything that he does is incredible. So we've got the brochure just finalized now. So I'm going to be sharing that on the website.
Awesome.
So yeah, there's lots of ways they can be involved with this lifestyle, and I hope that they at least incorporate more of the raw living foods
Right.
within their life. It doesn't have to be all or nothing. I think if we can come away from that thinking,
Yeah.
this is what's going to make the path much more sacred, enjoyable,
Yeah.
and enjoy the whole process. Enjoy
Right.
I call it the sacred journey.
Yeah.
It's exciting. It's an amazing
Yeah.
path. You're meeting like-minded souls like yourself who are just so connected and conscious. And this is what I love about life now. It's the
Yeah.
connections, the deep connections I'm having in my life, and it's so rewarding. So you get to experience the like-minded souls when you're on this path who are heart-centered. I want to be with those that we might have our challenges, we might have our triggers, but we're always bringing it back to the heart, and we're very conscious of that. So I will be opening it up to group gatherings as well. So I'm going to be
Cool.
in a different property. I'm looking at October, where we have a group of 10 people that come together. I'm starting small, intimately, and then we're looking at bigger retreats. So
Awesome.
yeah,
That's
exciting
cool.
time.
It is exciting. That's exciting. Well, I will tell you, you're an inspiration.
Thank you.
Like I said, we followed each other. I don't know how long it's been that we've been connected on Facebook. Sorry, my dog's now messing with me.
Oh,
And like, yeah, you're an inspiration, and it's like, just keep doing what you're doing because it's working. And I know that you're helping just more people than you know, and to be able to keep doing that, like, I'm praying you just have doors open that continue to be able to do this more and more, and everything that you see that you want to create can be created.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And if you ever come to Thailand, come and visit,
Right.
come and see the dogs.
Right.
Come
Exactly.
and be out here and immerse yourself with all the dogs as well and the lifestyle. Have you been to Thailand?
No, we haven't.
Wow.
Haven't been. So.
Well, it's got to be on the list.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It's beautiful. Yeah. It's paradise. It's a beautiful place.
Yeah. Oh, it's awesome. Well, thank you so much, Toni, for being on.
Thank you so much.